This is game changing. So at 8-9 years old, you were already selling Greenpeace t-shirts. We don't need people to report the news, we need people that make the news. I'm gonna tell you a little secret.
Marijke Schroos is the CEO of Microsoft Belux. But besides being a CEO of a tech company, she also started social scientist. So she's very passionate about impact on society.
What was your first interaction or introduction to AI, and what did you think back then?
Wow. If I looked at what it could do, I was like, okay, we have to make sure that we use it in a good way.
I have so many questions to you. Marijke, thank you so much for coming here today at the Better Futures podcast.
And I'm really excited to welcome you. I want to talk all about sustainability, about AI, about impact on society. But first of all, not every day that we get to speak to a CEO. So maybe a non-trivial question. As a CEO, how does your day look like?
Well, I think that's a great question to start with. I think none of my days are looking the same. I'm focused, of course, on driving the innovation, on making sure that we are there for our customers, that we're working together with our partners to really drive scale. I see myself as a representative of Microsoft towards the Belux, Belgium and Luxembourgian markets, but also as a representative of our local markets towards Microsoft to make sure we get the best and whatever we need to be successful here in country. And then, of course, it all comes to the people where you work with within Microsoft, but also within the partner community and at the customers, which is really great to see. So my days are filled, but it's a very nice job to do.
Thank you for today choosing to fill your day with our podcast as well.
Very well.
What about sustainability? How does it fit in your daily priorities?
But I think it's a very important one, not just as the CEO of Microsoft, but just as a human being. I think it needs to be top of mind for everyone. Of course, for Microsoft being in such a technology space where we have, I would say, two ways. One is what we can bring from a technology perspective to help to overcome the biggest problems we see in the world is just super exciting. If I see what generative AI can contribute, or just AI, or just technology, compute power, what we can contribute to make it all happen and to make it a better place, it's just awesome. But on the other end, of course, all that compute power, all those data centers also are costing a lot from a sustainability perspective. And making sure that we limit as much as we can whatever we need to make it happen there. That's also quite exciting to see how we are making progress there.
Super. I want to dive into all of that today. But first, do you see sustainability as more a compliance perspective for businesses, or do you see it as a strategic business priority?
Well, I think that's an open door. I think for sure it's strategic. I think regulation is just there. It's to make sure that we know where to go. But of course, the context, the why is much more important. So just following up on rules and regulation is not enough. You need to understand why those regulations are in place, and then you need to do the right thing. So for me, it's really strategic bets on the context, looking into the regulations, making sure you comply with the regulation, and then go beyond. I think that's really important. And I always use the Formula 1 example. It's one of the most regulated, it's actually the most regulated sport in the world, but it's also a very innovative sport, so it can go hand in hand.
Super. I can hear that you are very passionate about sustainability, but I think you also have a fascinating personal story of sustainability and how you got involved. Can you share that turning point in time, or maybe a few points in time, where you realized that sustainability is really critical?
Well, it's not that it was like the one turning point. I don't have that, but I was at a very early stage. I was already selling the t-shirts for Greenpeace, so I was quite committed. But I'm happy that I'm now in another position and I can do much more. because of course that contributed a little bit. But I think now with the tech, as I said, I'm a tech optimist. I think we can do much more. So it's nice to see that I can bring in much more than what I did as a child, an 8-9-year-old child. And I see that also with my children. My second daughter is now studying biology because she's so fascinated about the ecological systems and how to influence and how to make it all contributing to a better world. So, no, I see a lot of things, good things happening in my environment. Let's call it that way.
So at 8-9 years old, you were already selling Greenpeace t-shirts. What made an 8-9-year-old think about doing that?
Oh, it was, I think it's all about the why and the context. And I saw that, I saw this interview with Greenpeace, and I was saying, okay, I need to step in, I need to do this. So I bought 20, and then I went to sell them to make sure that, because I was not that wealthy to pay it all for myself, and then the entire school was actually I had a white and a black one, so they could choose a color, but yes.
That's awesome, very entrepreneurial. And you mentioned that your daughter is studying biology as well. I mean, many of us are also parents, and we want to raise children that are conscious about the environment and regeneration and the good things we can do. As a mother, how do you raise children like that are interested actually in natural systems and biology and doing something better? I want to know it as a mother myself.
Well, I think you do a very good job there. I'm very sure. Well, it's not to my credits. I think young people are very much motivated to work on a better world. So I think they are very curious to find out what they can do, how they can contribute. And then, of course, you need to help them as well. You need to make sure that they understand and that we can have a conversation about it. But all credits to them. I don't think I had a huge influence there. So
I think a little bit. You were an activist at an 8-9 years old. I think you impacted that a little bit, at least, for sure.
Well, probably it's in their DNA also.
Exactly. Well, sustainability seems like the right thing to do, right? It's top of mind, it's really important, we realize that. But we still see that businesses are struggling or hesitating to implement sustainability. What are the bottlenecks that you see here for businesses, and how can businesses overcome them?
Yeah, I think it always comes to change management. I think people need to understand the why, the context, then also how they can contribute. And I don't think it's always clear. I think the regulation is there, but that's more the what. But as soon as they know, okay, why it's important we change and how can we contribute, it becomes much easier. And I think we're getting there. I think we've got some very nice examples with what I've seen here at Cordeel. I was here like 50 minutes before the podcast started, and I got a little guided tour, and I would recommend it to anyone because it gives you such a big belief that we're ready to make that big leap as well in the construction industry on getting us to that better place. So I think it all comes to explaining and to make sure that the context and the how are clear to anyone.
What are the most fascinating examples of sustainability in business that you have seen from anywhere in the world?
Oh, I don't think I've got such a broad view as probably you have. But there are so many things are happening now. I saw here today that isolation, that you could do that with actually the roots of mushrooms. It's just amazing because it's costing us so much from a sustainability perspective, the isolation we're using right now. If we can move that to something that is fully biological, it's not just from a negative to a neutral, it's from a negative to a positive, which is just amazing to see. I think you should explain what you're doing with the hennep, because I think that's one that I'm using like in every other interview or ask from people, because I think it's such an exciting story, but I think you can tell it better than I do.
Thank you very much for pointing the mic at me. But for those of you who don't know, And what we do is we regenerate the land, polluted or degraded land, with the power of plants, organic soil additives. And then we use the plant biomass that grows to create carbon negative construction materials. And that is based on plants like hemp, that is based on mycelium, where we can substitute wood or fossil fuel based materials or plastic, but actually natural materials. And the beauty of it is that we regenerate the land and we make materials that stock carbon in buildings. And in that way, we can turn construction from a huge carbon emitter that emits almost 40% of global CO2 emissions to a huge carbon sink. That's our, big goal, to regenerate the soils all over the world and to make buildings carbon negative. That's what we do. We are very excited about it, and we are happy to partner with Microsoft on the climate tech part of the puzzle. But I think it does come to, not just or sustainability in general. For me, it doesn't come to slightly improving things, like making materials slightly better, but maybe sometimes turning the question from head to toe and starting, well, what if we could completely design new materials or new things that would indeed contribute positively to the environment rather than being less bad? And I think this way we can, I always envision a future where whatever product or service we touch, it actually regenerates the planet. And I think it would be so cool if it was like that.
Absolutely, that would be really, really cool. And I think we're getting there step by step. And it's going fast, because I saw already these pillars that are sold now towards the municipalities.
Yeah.
That are actually I think almost 50% is the hemp, and then some sort of recycled plastics, which was typically something very polluting, to construct to something that is actually helping municipalities on getting to their ESG norms. So really, really great to see.
That's true, because I think whether on business or on city scale, like you mentioned, businesses know that they need to do things, or people know that they need to do things, but sometimes they don't know how. And for example, for cities, there are a lot of targets, a lot of agenda on becoming carbon neutral, for example, but there is not a lot of guidance on how to get there. And that's why we thought, okay, we will not change a whole city emissions by traffic poles, but if we start with traffic poles that are reducing emissions 4 to 6% in comparison to traditional plastic, then that's already contributing. And if we quantify that, if we give the transparent reporting, then in this way, at least we contribute a little bit. And a traffic pole seems like a small thing, but if you look at the bicycle lanes at parkings, there are thousands of them in every city.
Oh, yeah. Countless.
Small steps,
Yes, absolutely. No, and then if you look at the data centers as well, you can do so many things now, a combination of tech and then using the right materials. We are building now a new data centers in Finland, where we're going to use the heat that is typically coming off the data centers to warm 250,000 households.
Oh, wow.
So that will also limit, of course, the CO2 emissions quite drastically.
Yeah.
So you can, if you really think through, and if you really look at as you were saying, turning it around and making sure that you use whatever is created, then you can do marvelous things.
Let's talk maybe about the data centers and the technology plus as well, and the AI in general. I think it's a very interesting topic. It's a very sexy topic these days, because everybody is looking how to innovate and not be behind on the AI. What was your first interaction or introduction to AI, and what did you think back then?
Well, I think AI has existed, of course, for a long time now. But when I saw the Copilot demo 2 years ago, of course, it comes very close to what I'm doing every day. I was saying, wow, this is game changing. This is game changing. This is going to completely change my job as well. And if I looked at what it could do, I was like, okay, we have to make sure that we use it in a good way. Because this is really, this can be awesome, but it can also be, like every game-changing technology, it is important to use it in a correct way. But I was immediately like, okay, now we see a huge change coming.
You know, when I send you a video of our project of regeneration in Spain with Alfonso Chico de Guzman, a regenerative farmer at La Junquera, and I received your response, which was very beautiful. And then a lovely note at the end. This was drafted with the help of Copilot. I was so happily impressed. I was like, this is cool, you know. First of all, maybe, I mean, you're very busy, but you took the time to send me a response, even with the help of Copilot. I found it that it was really top notch. So thank you. I love that.
Transparency is always good, and but of course it all comes then to how you prompt it.
Yeah.
You really have to think through. It's like having an assistant next to you, and you need to make sure that you brief them well. You have to make sure that they understand what's the context, what do you want to achieve, what kind of sources need to be used, etc. And as soon as you've got that right, it's really very helpful.
Well, how do you prompt it correctly? What do you need to keep in mind?
Well, I think it always comes to, okay, like I really imagine having a junior assistant that doesn't know me that well yet.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's how I prompt for everything. And so you have to tell, okay, what kind of objective you have, what is your audience, what is the context of the audience, which sources do you need to use, and then you get amazing results. It was kind of funny because I was triggering the people in the Belgian sub as well to use it also more like on a private use. So I sent them my Christmas dinner because I asked Copilot to help me on defining that Christmas dinner, because I had a few vegetarians, a few that only eat fish, a few that only do the meat. And I was thinking, okay, during the apéro I want to be with the people, so it needs to be something I can prepare in beforehand, and I want to have like the same side dishes because I don't want to have like 12 different side dishes with each meal. So I put it all in, and I said, and all of the ingredients need to be able that I can at least buy them somewhat locally, because they're not something that you have to fly in from Japan or whatever. So I was doing that, and then I got a lot of response from the people. They said, yeah, but I like more like the Euromeus type of things. So I just changed it, and I said, from a source perspective, you can use Euromeus, Pascal Naas, and a few others. And then I got a completely different menu.
Okay.
But it was so easy. And then I asked as well, make me a table as well of all of the ingredients in the right quantities. So it was super easy to go to the shop as well. It's just an example because to say you can get so much out of it. This is a private thing, but you can easily copy it as soon as you get the prompting into your fingers for any business question.
I can already imagine a junior assistant trying to puzzle all these pieces together.
Well, even a very senior assistant, if you have to make it happen, you've got then all of these menus together, and you need to then see, okay, what are the quantities for each? It was a time saver. I pick one.
You look like a very thoughtful person that really goes to, great lengths of thinking and accommodating your guests with all the different dietary preferences. So that's very cool.
Well, yeah, it is a party, so it needs to be good for everyone.
You mentioned when we were talking at the beginning about AI that it needs to be used for good. How do we make sure to do that?
Keep each other honest, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that I like to have some regulation because I think it's setting boundaries, which is good. Don't overdo, of course, because we still need to learn a lot from a societal perspective and unlearn a lot as well to make sure that it gives us what we need. But I think we are on a good track as such, so let's see.
Okay. Hopefully we are. I want to focus on the positive. I think that we lack sometimes the building of a positive future. We all focus on climate change is really bad, and with sustainability we have to give up stuff, and AI can have really negative impacts. But sometimes we forget to paint the good picture of what can come. And I think if we have a clear vision of how good it can be, it's much easier to steer ourselves that way, to put this, guards in place, to put regulation in place that would make sure that we get to a better future action.
Yes. But there again, I think people need to see the good.
Yeah.
We need to bring those stories.
Yeah.
I think your story is just an amazing story. I've seen also in the pharma, for example, how much faster they can go to find the right medication.
Oh, okay. With AI.
with AI in all kind of research. It's really helping. We found a way to limit the lithium in the batteries with 70%. That would have cost us years, and even we would not have the compute power to find it. And now it was a matter of a couple of days, weeks to find those components that were needed.
Amazing.
So there is a lot again to look into it and to really show it as well towards the broader audiences to see, okay, so you can have your personal productivity gains with cooking the menu for Christmas, but it goes so much beyond.
Maybe let's focus on that positive AI good for society picture. What are kind of the amazing examples that you are seeing that maybe everybody should know?
There are many. It goes from productivity, like getting all of the boring tasks, the pure administration, the having to put from one file to another file and just type it in. From call center experiences, from doctor experiences. We've got a speech to text now while we are talking about something that is wrong with my arm. Let's say it that way. Then it's noted. You get a summary. It can go to your generalist doctor. So the doctor, the specialist, will have much more time to just concentrate on the patient itself.
Yeah.
But you could also imagine that they would get help from a helpline where Copilot is in suggesting additional questions, medication, and etc. So it can go very far. If you look at education, where children typically need 2 years, 18 months to learn to have the technical reading. For children of 6-7 years old, typically, they learn to read, but also for people that don't understand the language and they come in later, it typically takes 18 months. But if you do it supported by AI, meaning you're in front of a camera, you're reading and the camera is then giving you different words depending on where you're struggling with, you can make the same steps in 6 weeks. That means that the teachers will have so much more time to spend on other topics that are very important as well to get to those pupils. So there are many processes where AI really can make a difference, allowing us humans to address other topics as well.
You know, when you gave that educational example, I imagine my mom, because she is from a part of Russia where her native language was Tatar. And then she went to school when she was 7, and the school language is Russian. So at the beginning, she had a very hard time to understand what the teachers were saying. And I think throughout the whole school, the only subject that she was not a straight A student was Russian language, just because she wasn't native at it. I mean, now she converses, it's her main language. But I imagine that the struggle she went through and how AI maybe could have helped a small girl that is completely alone among, others. When the teachers speak language she doesn't understand, I imagine how she could have benefited from it.
Absolutely. We had every year in September, we've got a full week, and that's the AI for Good week.
Okay.
And then all of our people in Microsoft, they are like assembling in groups and they're competing with each other for new ideas.
So nice.
And there was one example this year I really liked. So they made like a puppet with a camera, and so you put your book in front of it, and it was a Dutch book, and you asked the puppet to read it in English. So that was reading in English, and then the child could ask additional questions. Yeah, but why did the tiger get ill? How did the tiger got ill? Because he was playing in the rain and it was not good for him. And then you could also have like 5 questions to see whether the child really understood what was in the book. Or you could even have a conversation on, I don't like the ending, can we work on a new ending? So, but it was meant for children as an aid for the reading, but also the team that made it were all not native Belgian, Flemish or French-speaking persons, and they wanted to get to something where they can help their children in the educational system here. So they could also have it in their own language, and they could like learn together with each other, not just with stories, but also with educational books. And I was just thinking, this is making it so good for people that maybe cannot read that well, have another language, maybe have issues with concentration, so they can use it as well. For people with some maybe where the all kinds of examples. I think you can see what the potential is of such a solution. So
Yeah. Based on that, maybe a far-fetched question. Do you think we need to learn languages at all, or can we get around with a common language just by using AI?
no, I think we really need to stick to the languages, because I think languages have like different components. I think there's also a cultural aspect. But I do feel that AI will help us to communicate better with each other. So it will be easier. You will keep your own language, but it will be much easier to understand and to make sure that everyone is included into any conversation anywhere. But I still like to have the different languages. I think it makes us diverse as well. So.
That's true. That's true. We speak 3 languages at home, and my husband is Flemish from Belgium. The kids mainly speak Flemish or Belgian Dutch, and that's what they speak between each other. I speak Russian to them, and then we speak English with my husband. And we used to use English as a language of communicating and discussing something, so the kids wouldn't know what we're talking about.
Does it work?
Oh no, not anymore. But hey, on the other hand, they slowly picked up another language that maybe they wouldn't have picked up. Although I think in Flanders and Belgium, I love the fact that cartoons, TV is often in English and dubbed in Flemish. So this way you also naturally learn. But yeah, they picked up a third language naturally, and no secrets anymore in the house. But in any case, I'm proud of the kids.
Absolutely. And I think it is true. You're picking up much easier if you have a combination. So what we can do now is in Teams, PowerPoint, whatever, you can have the captions in your own language. And it is easier then to also start to learn, because you make the connotations much easier than when you are all switching to maybe bad English like I'm doing.
No, your English is great.
But I think there is a lot of aid, and with the technical reading, with a few other programs where AI can help, then you can make time for the children as well to look into items like fake news, like the climate action. I think we've got some very nice examples here in Flanders as well, with Koen Timmers, for example, who is doing this program to really make children see what they can do, how they can act better and make and contribute to a better world. I think those domains also need to be more targeted in education, and we want to free up some time for the educators on administration and on the task where AI can help, so to make sure that they have enough time to spend with the children as well. On those domains.
Actually, it's a very good point, because when it comes to climate data and climate information, majority of it is in English, but there are so many languages spoken in the world, and there is a difficulty translating it in those other languages, and AI could be of huge help to bring this information locally, because I think everywhere in the world we now see effects of climate change, but maybe if we know more why it's happening, what is happening, what to expect, then there would be more action as well, right?
I'm going to tell you a little secret, but I think it can help here as well. I'm not technical. I did social sciences, communication science. So I get a lot of technical white papers. And what I'm doing now is I'm asking my co-pilot to make it like a 2-pager, but written in Flemish for a 12-year-old. And that really helps to make it more easy to digest. So I think there as well, if you look at the ESG reporting, from one hand, sometimes it's quite complex.
Yeah.
And then you have this curiosity of all ages children. And I think it's really nice that you can bring them and you can just ask your co-pilot to say, okay, make it now, adapt it to a 6-year-old, what is in there and how can they contribute, etc. It can bring a totally new way of making sure that the curiosity that's there, that you have like appealing content to source and to make sure that they keep going and keep asking on those domains, because it's important for the future of everyone. So
Yeah, not just children, honestly. I would love to have a more simple climate communication or ESG reporting communication, because now it's so complex. And I think sometimes it's also the barrier of adapting it, because you want to do something, but then you start reading the pages and pages and pages of regulation, and you're like, where do I start? This is so complex. I need all of these new terms. And for a 6-year-old, I think it can be useful for anyone to understand it better, right?
True. And we have some use cases now as well, where when there is new EU regulation, that the AI is helping as a co-pilot, is helping to translate it, for example, in the Flemish decreet.
Okay.
So that also can be done. Or also in your reporting for a company, it's quite hectic to get all of the information aligned. And there as well, AI can help, of course, to make sure that all the metrics are aligned, and to ease the way you generate that sustainability report.
I'm going to come back to you on that, because we are working on the tech part of traceability of all our projects from fields to final products. And we want to add the part where you can monitor the project anytime and have KPIs for your sustainability report. So maybe I'll come back to you and see how we can optimize with AI. I mean, based on this conversation, there is so much potential for AI in businesses, and it looks like if businesses don't really consider implementing AI, they might miss out. What recommendation could you give to businesses in any area to, especially climate, nature, tech, sustainability? Just because I'm very passionate about this one. But what recommendation could you give in terms of thinking how AI could support the business case and the regeneration? Because to be honest, when it comes to regenerative businesses that do more good than less bad, traditionally, as a startup or a business, you start with identifying the market and customer needs and providing a solution for that. But for a regenerative business, you start from doing something good for the environment and regenerating it, and then finding a business model that would support that. So you don't immediately start with the customer needs, and to be honest, it's the hardest transition to do, because you somehow need to tie two needs together and make an attractive product. So that's a personal reflection that I see when it comes to a business like that. So it's already hard enough. Maybe for the businesses in this area as well, how can they integrate AI or think of benefiting AI in any aspect of what they do?
No, it's a good question. I think the more you know about the capabilities, the easier probably it is to make use out of it.
Okay.
That means I would recommend to talk a lot with people from the tech world as well, because I do believe tech can help. But of course, if you have that tech startup, that climate tech startup, you have the idea, and I think that's the main part, of course. How to link it then to your market? That's of course your thing. But I do believe that even there, AI can help as well. I would challenge any startup to see and to start interacting by good fronts, by asking to see, okay, what would be my ideal market to start from? Where is the pain the biggest, or the gain the largest? And you could have a lot of insights there, maybe things you wouldn't have thought about yourself. But I would suggest to look into that one as well.
Okay. I just seen that there is Copilot that has been added on my Outlook. So when this is done, I'm going to do some prompting. Maybe some interesting insights will come out.
Be surprised what you get out of it. Yes, I'm using it most of the time as well. If I need to do like keynotes or panel discussions, or I go to a customer, I always ask, okay, but what are now the biggest concerns and the biggest wins in this specific industry? And how can we help from a tech perspective? And I always get 1 or 2 or 3 new ideas coming out of it. So I think for startups as well, quite interesting to have that conversation going as well, to see whether there are things, blind spots that you wouldn't have thought about yourself.
Awesome. And maybe let's look a bit at the other side as well, because sustainability businesses are very conscious. And we hear a lot that AI emissions are on the rise.
So how do we make sure that we find this good balance of using AI for good and for sustainability, but at the same time not making sure that emissions run through the roof?
Yeah, I think awareness is important, regulation is important, and then I think it's also important that each and every user and producer is making it at the heart of what they're doing.
Yeah.
So there is a lot going on there because on electricity, on water waste, we have committed by 2030 to be carbon negative, to have zero waste, to have positive water, to have and by 2050 we want to have all carbon that we ever have produced removed.
Oh wow.
And we're working on that quite with a lot of eagerness. It's not just about the electricity consumption and the water consumption, of course, it's also about building the data centers, using the materials, and also on the GPUs, it's specifically on how we are cooling down the data centers. I was 2 weeks ago in the US, and I was amazed to see that we are actually building now data centers where it looks like the server is actually in water. But we're using the fluids that divers are using when they need to dive really, really deep.
Okay.
They cannot breathe air because then the lung is collapsing. They're actually breathing a kind of a liquid, and that liquid we're using now within the box where the servers are in. It's amazing, and it gives so much less water usage, and it's also healthy because it's also something to breathe for divers. So it's not something that is disturbing nature.
Yeah.
But also on the batteries and on the GPUs, we are putting a lot of our tech specialists to make sure that we can use as little as possible and recycle as much as we can.
I think Microsoft is having really ambitious goals versus a lot of other businesses and global corporations when it comes to cutting emissions, cutting impact. And you mentioned you have a goal of removing all the historic emissions. It's the first time I hear something like that. It's really, really exciting. Could you share maybe a few other things that Microsoft is doing when it comes to sustainability? Something that you think is really, really interesting?
We are also redoing all of our buildings in the US. So I was there 2 weeks ago as well. We've got an amazing new campus, but it's really, you see that it's with a lot of thought towards sustainability. Data centers, of course, a big focus. Learning. We've got in each and every subsidiary, we've got a virtual team, a V team of people really working on sustainability, making sure that we do also the smaller things, that we make sure that we are living through the mission from top to the very end. Then we've got that AI for Good Week in September, which is also generating a lot of appetite to do more, of course, because you see what we can do with technology, and it's quite exciting. And then people start telling the stories, and it gets to its own rhythm. So I think the more you talk about it, the more you can show how people can contribute, the more people feel eagerness to do so as well. And we've got so many very clever minds and so many people that are really concerned about our impact on society as well, next to seeing the opportunity for our society and what we can contribute there. And I think that's, if you see the positive impact we can have, it's just amazing. So yeah, I think talk about it, make sure that you integrate all of your people into your ESG story, and I think then you can move so many things.
I think the integration part of the people, and it's not at all flattery on my side, but we talked to a lot of companies, and I met so many people at Microsoft that are personally passionate about doing something, supporting us. Microsoft immediately jumped at the idea of collaborating with us and supporting us with technology 2 years ago. We had tremendous push from Microsoft, right, for the Entrepreneurship for Positive Impact program from the local teams here on the ground. And I haven't met companies where so many people that you were talking to are actually passionate of helping startups make it work, and also passionate on a personal level to do something when it comes to sustainability. So for me, that's really one of the
best case scenarios of integrating employees in sustainability. It might be also the other way around, you know, that employees at Microsoft are just so passionate and like the whole thing moves in unison, but that's not something that I've envisioned in a lot of other areas.
It's great to hear. Happy with that. At least from Microsoft perspective, but let's convince all the others as well to step in and to join us in the movement. But I think also your case is quite, it is a very nice case. It's very hard not to be super excited if you hear about the story and what you want to achieve. So I think you also have this amazing mission. And I think, it's only natural, and it's a given that people want to join and be part of that story. I think so.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. But I want to be super open, you know, with you and everybody that is listening. When I started working on that, and when I heard first my co-founder Frederik Verstraete run the first PFAS cleanup pilots with plants. I was still working at MasterCard, and I had that idea that, okay, I don't want to do anything else. So since I learned that our soils and our food is polluted and we can actually solve it with the power of nature, I felt something inside me that said, okay, this is your goal, no, you need to focus on this. And I quit my corporate job, I started working on it, but I did have an idea that, you know, it's a beautiful vision, it's a beautiful technology, and I thought, okay, now I'm going to go out there and do a lot of impact all over the world. And then I realized that it's still even with a beautiful concept and a beautiful regeneration business, it's still not that easy to make it scale.
Mm-hmm.
You still need the right partners everywhere. You still need to sell your idea every single day while you're talking to anybody, and you still 1 or 2 years after, for the 2000th time, you need to have the same, you know, fire in your eyes and the same belief in that idea. And it's not a simple journey to scale something, especially when there is a conventional way to do a business and we need to kind of steer it away towards regeneration. So I want to ask you for advice. I mean, Microsoft has been our partner, and I'm extremely grateful for all your support. You guys seem to get us, you know, right away. But how, maybe for us in terms of other partnerships, but also anybody who is listening and is building businesses, how do they get big partners on board like Microsoft to help them hyperscale? Because it's one thing to have a great idea as a startup, it's another thing to say we are collaborating to bring it to life with Microsoft. So what is the advice you would give to entrepreneurs and passionate founders out there to bring on board global corporations to help them hyperscale?
Yeah, it's not easy, of course, because it will also depend on exactly the idea and how to bring it to markets to get that interest from the big companies. I think your example is again very good one. So how did you get in contact with us, and how did we take it?
Well, we got through connections, to be honest. We met local people at Microsoft, and then we also got to learn about Microsoft Founders Hub, which is a great program for anybody who wants to build a tech business and can use free Microsoft technology, specifically Azure credits. And then through that program, I think anyone can apply online, actually. It's pretty easy. I think almost anyone can get in as well. And then through that program, you can meet local teams on the ground, have more conversations with them about the business idea, and then actually get free advice from Microsoft on how to implement that idea, but also who could be the customers and how Microsoft could help building connections with Microsoft customers for whom this advice could be relevant. So for us, it was a bit two-sided, through connections that we met, and on the other hand, through Founders Hub.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were also nominated by the local connections here and Microsoft people that really loved our idea for Microsoft Entrepreneurship for Positive Impact program. It's a global program that selects startups all over the world to help accelerate them. And we also got accepted into that program, got a finalist of the AI for Positive Impact Cup. That's how it rolled out. It was not evident from the beginning, but it rolled out through the Founders Hub.
Yeah, so that's the way to start and to kick it off.
Super. Now we have a practical tip for everyone.
Yes.
Go on Microsoft Founders Hub. Check out what's possible. By the way, I found it really cool that in Microsoft Founders Hub, you also don't just get free Asia credits, but you get like advantages on LinkedIn, advantages on OpenAI, all kinds of different tools that can be very useful for entrepreneurs at the beginning. Maybe on the other side note, not just on the Microsoft Founders Hub, but you're a CEO of Microsoft Belux. From you looking at the founder's perspective, what would capture your attention? How to capture attention of a person like you with AI or sustainability or societal impact solutions?
Okay. I think, well, I already said it, I'm a tech optimist. So if I see good examples of where tech can really make a difference,
Yeah.
I'm super excited about the story. And you tell me your story, and I'm gonna replicate it everywhere where I am, which is a great thing to do. And I think everyone is interested in these type of stories because you want to hear the good ones.
Yes.
You want to see how it can improve the way we live, the world for our children, what impact it can have on our economy, on our competitiveness, how we can make it happen in a different way. And I think it gives a lot of excitement in the eyes of others if you can tell those stories. So I'm super eager to get more stories in. And then to see, okay, how can we make it happen for us here locally with the aid of the mother company, and I really like that. It brings it all alive. So
Amazing. Stories are important.
yes, and realizations and seeing what it really means for people and their business.
Okay. You mentioned that you're a tech optimist, but on the other hand, you studied social sciences, so it's important for you to see the impact on society. How would you envision a better regenerative future? What does it look like for you?
Oh, difficult questions you ask.
Sorry.
I don't see it like an end goal. I see that we can continuously improve. By learning together, by exploring together, by making our steps and forward, by acknowledging where we didn't do well. And I think there is no end state. We just need to improve and improve and improve whatever we learn in the meanwhile. So I think the progress and making sure that we are all together in for it to make it better. I think that's already quite something.
I like the angle that you put on the continuous improvement, because sometimes we see where we are today and where we want to be, and it's such a huge gap that it seems insurmountable, impossible to reach. And I like the concept of continuous steps where we are happy with the progress, because we can't change everything in one day. But I love that statistics, and I might be completely wrong about it, but I think if we improve just 1% every day, by the end of the year it's like 36 times better. I might be completely wrong here, but it was like a huge
Yes,
change.
and I think we can make that happen. I heard yesterday a quote, and I really liked it a lot. We don't need people to report the news, we need people that make the news. And I think that's really awesome, and in a positive way, of course. Without saying. But I think that's really what we need.
That's true. We need more change makers. Marijke, I want to ask you a closer question. What's the most exciting thing you're working on this year?
Oh, there are so many things that are so exciting. I think this conversation and working with you is super exciting. Of course, AI is big in my daily work. We are gonna open our data centers here in Belgium, which is quite exciting as well. Microsoft is existing 50 years this year, so we will have some celebrations as well. We don't look to the past, we look to the future, of course, but we're also very grateful what brought us here. So there's so many exciting things that are happening at the same time. So I think it's not just one thing I can call out.
That's a good thing. It's a lot of exciting projects for this year, and I'm looking forward to hear all about what you're doing.
Yes.
Looking forward to see our partnership progress as well.
and make that a super success, because I think you're on something really great.
Thank you. Appreciate it a lot. It really means a lot to us, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. And thank you very much for coming today, for having this conversation with me. I learned a lot about AI and what AI could do. I'm definitely going to use AI maybe for a dinner prompt party.
That was just an example.
I know, but I'm going to check for market fits, and we just actually finished our first AI model. We are very proud of it. It's calculating the growth of hemp and the CO2 sequestration in the biomass, so we can track how the fields are doing without being there all the time. And we can predict how much materials we can make, how the year is going, because, for example, last year with a lot of rain, the crop growth was just very different everywhere. And now we can see the CO2 sequestration as well and predict how much CO2 we can remove through the building materials. So that's the first step. That's been finalized now. We are starting new AI models as well on regeneration, on PFAS. So definitely we're going to keep seeing how to integrate technology in a responsible way to drive nature regeneration and regenerative business.
Great, you're a top partner.
Thank you for your support, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you.
This podcast is sponsored by Cordell Group, the most innovative builder changing the game for sustainability in construction.